What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. For all those watching stateside celebrating 4th of July, I hope the weekend is going well for you. Make sure you don't blow off your fingers or hands with those fireworks. Also, a warm welcome to newcomers to the channel and any returning viewers. I know you're all busy and I really do appreciate your time watching these videos. Anyways, today I'm going to be ranking the coasters at Dollywood based off my first ever visit to the park about 2 weeks ago, which was a few days after they reopened to the public. The park has an awesome lineup of coasters that any enthusiast or family member can enjoy. I did get to ride all of them, with exception to Blazing Fury, which was not running in the later part of the afternoon when I went over there to ride it. All others I was able to experience at least once, but I'll spare the details for each when I get to them in the list. Also keep in mind that I'm a somewhat newfound enthusiast, so there's a good chance my opinions on these will differ quite a bit from the others. There are a total of 6 coasters I got to ride at the park, and starting from the bottom working to the top, we have Fire Chaser Express at number 6, made by Gerstlauer. Here's what I want to say about this coaster. Just because I put it at the bottom at number 6, doesn't mean it's a bad ride. In fact, this is actually really good for a somewhat family-oriented coaster. It has unique elements in it, like launching out of the station into a small airtime hill, before wrapping around into the starting chain lift, and towards the end, where you end up launching backwards after a brief hold into a well-themed building, but sends you into drops and turns that you can't see coming, because you're facing the opposite way. I didn't know what the coaster was like at all before getting on it, and I was pleasantly surprised for sure. One negative thing that I'll mention is it had a tendency to break down for brief periods during the day. There was actually one time where a train stopped entirely on the mid-course brake run, and didn't move for about 10 minutes when I was looking at it, seeing if they'd keep it going further in the layout. There was no obvious problem with it, but more likely some minor error codes being reported back from the computers, which stopped the ride. Regardless, still a great ride, and worth getting on when you visit. At number 5, I'm putting Mystery Mine in this spot, also manufactured by Gerstlauer. Again, not necessarily a bad ride, but it didn't hold up that well for me compared to the other rides at the park. The drops are good, and the hang time during the last inversion of the ride is an awesome feeling. But there are some parts of the track which feel kind of janky, like some sort of hiccup in the pieces, not really enough to make you keep thinking about it, nor is it prolonged. There's also some parts of the ride where it feels like it's just kind of meandering throughout the layout, which isn't all that exciting. The wait time was also longer for this one, since the trains only consist of one car with 2 rows that are 4 seats wide. And the problem with that is, since the park is incorporating new capacity operations due to the coronavirus, only 2 different parties can get on at once. For example, say there's 2 riders wanting to get on, but neither are in the same party. They will occupy an entire row to only one guest, and then the other in the next row. This makes the line back up quite a bit and move pretty slow. It's to no fault of Gerstlauer or the park, it's just the reality of things right now. Moving on up to number 4, we have Tennessee Tornado, an aerodynamics terrain coaster designed by the man himself, Alan Schulke. I really like this coaster. It has a unique drop off into a tunnel, where you then come back out into the daylight and into a large vertical loop. And it really does take advantage of the terrain it's set on as well. It has a tense moment, and it's actually pretty smooth considering it's an aero looper. The only reason I don't have it higher on the list is because the ride is pretty short, coming in at about 38 seconds or so, from the time you get off the lift hill to when you reach the final brake run. They also only have 1 train ops running on it, which made the line, albeit pretty short, feel like it was moving extremely slow, since it took a few minutes to dispatch a train and for it to come back to load on the next set of guests. Decent theming, a good layout, but just a bit too short to have it higher on the list. Coming in at number 3 is going to be Wild Eagle, a B&M wing coaster. For being in the top 3, I actually don't have that much to say about this one. It's a somewhat graceful wing coaster featuring 4 inversions with nothing out of the ordinary. Now when I say graceful, I don't mean to discredit any intensity the ride has, because it absolutely packs some. In fact, I actually grayed out twice on the 3 times I went on it during the first drop, which says something because I usually don't gray out or black out on a lot of rides. I do mean, however, that it has a moderate and consistent pace to it, which isn't really a good or a bad thing. This one can also feel a bit short, but not quite as noticeable as Tennessee Tornado. Nearing the top at number 2 is Thunderhead, a GCI twister layout wooden coaster. Out of all the rankings on this list we've gone over so far, this is the one that I feel like contrasts at least a lot of the general public's opinion about the coasters at the park. But I'm absolutely sticking to it. This ride is criminally underrated, and I couldn't believe it was a walk-on. And it wasn't just a walk-on when the park opened, or around lunchtime, or at dinner. All day there was hardly anyone in line. It was me, a couple other guys who really liked it, and some other randoms who came and went on occasion. I can't think of any other reason there's not as many people getting on this coaster as I'd expect, other than it's somewhat on the opposite side of the park from where Lightning Rod is at. This ride has it all: laterals, great airtime, surprising smoothness, and an exceptional out-of-control feeling. I could immediately tell that the park has taken great care of this ride because of just how great it ran. In this last off-season, you could actually see where they did some retracking, which is towards the end of the ride. Dollywood, you've done a phenomenal job maintaining this one. Now keep in mind that the trains were mostly empty, and it still felt like this. Imagine if it were not only a hot day where the trains had been running already, but also the trains were full like a normal weekend day any other year. Wow, if you decide to visit the park, please do yourself a favor and come get some rides on this coaster. And finally, at number 1, to nobody's surprise, is Lightning Rod. I'm not placing it at the top just because it's RMC, or it's the common idea that it's the best ride at the park. It's at the top of my list, not only because it's absolutely unbelievable ride, it's a top 3 coaster for me at least, period. Where do I start? The one-of-a-kind launch starting hill? The incredible all-dropping first drop? The giant wave turn? The quad down? Listen, there are not many coasters where I've been in the mindset that I'm like, holy shit, this thing is going to fly off the track. The pacing is absurdly quick. The ride is intense, there's amazing airtime moments that are delivered in more ways than just a regular airtime hill. The giant left-hand wave turn is a brilliant example of this, all while running extremely smooth through the terrain it's set on, even though it's a steel-topped wooden track. This coaster is a shining example of engineering and designing work of art that's bested by little to none. There's a reason this ride is now my number 2 coaster overall, only behind Steel Vengeance. If you are a coaster fan and you have not been on this attraction, it should be at the very top of your bucket list coasters. Words cannot do it justice, you need to experience it for yourself. So that is my coaster rankings list for Dollywood, excluding Blazing Fury. When it's all said and done, my final ride count at the park goes as follows: 1 on Fire Chaser Express, 1 on Mystery Mine, 2 on Tennessee Tornado, 3 on Wild Eagle, 7 on Thunderhead, and 6 on Lightning Rod. And that's going to do it for today's upload. I'm sure some of you disagree with how I rank things, and that's fine. Let me know about it down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Many thanks for sticking around and watching. And again, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Peace.